Right, so let's get started.
Recording, right? This one's a bit random, not to mention uneventful, but I'll make a video out of it anyway because, well, why not? Besides, the folder structure on my hard drive told me that the upcoming footage was next in line and due for an edit, so who am I to argue with that? I mentioned in the first 2 photo walk episodes that the format was a bit janky and inconsistent in the beginning. Well, I guess we've gotten to the point where that sort of reached its pinnacle. Around April to May of 2022, basically when I first started dabbling in film photography again, I hadn't really fine-tuned the details of how I wanted to present the episodes to the world yet. I'd usually just throw a roll into a camera, fire off a few shots, leave it for a couple of weeks, and then fire off a few more, without considering how difficult it would be to comp everything together into watchable videos with a somewhat interesting story and all that. Honestly, the next episode following this one is probably where I reached the peak of difficulty in the editing process, where 2 rolls of 12 square frame 120 film got divided into 3 separate occasions spread over 3 weeks with little to no interconnectivity. I'm seriously dreading having to script that one. Intrigued by the idea of having me struggle? Well, then I guess you have no other option but to subscribe and find out how it went when that video sees the light of day. Just saying, might be worth it. If you're into that sort of thing, you sadistic f***. This episode you're watching now may be viewed as sort of a precursor to that one, in that it's pretty short and arbitrary. It's just me going for a walk to the nearest liquor store to pick up a couple of beers. Seriously. I brought the Canon FTb that happened to have a bunch of shots left on the roll from the last episode still in it. With the 135 f2.8 Canon NFD lens attached to it, I headed out armed with only my oldish Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone for capturing video. I'm really uncomfortable filming myself in public, so I figured this would be a great exercise in lessening the awkwardness factor for future videos and whatnot. Obviously, the quality of the technical aspects of this episode will have a hard time competing with the ones before it, where I had Emma tag along rocking a proper mirrorless camera with good video specs and all that, but I'm sure you'll find some sort of enjoyment out of it anyway. At least I hope so. I mean, why else would I bother putting in the time and effort to create the video in the first place, right? So here you go, a viewable gift from me to you. The first thing I stumbled upon was this, just around the corner from our apartment. Now, I can't really explain why, but I felt it really nailed the tone for this particular episode, in both missing the point and at the same time simply being garbage. Jokes aside, this first shot is certainly nothing spectacular, but it may have a certain pseudo-artsy quality to it if you're into that sort of thing. Being early spring, I moments later walked past this vivid yellow shrubbery and apparently found it good enough to shoot a few seconds worth of video of, but sadly I didn't snap a photo. Banger avoided, I guess. Moving on, I noticed a Scandic hotel peeking up over the horizon in the distance, and it looked pretty cool, so naturally I snapped this photo of a completely different building instead. Turned out fine enough though. Further along the path, I stumbled onto this potential gem of a shot. I love how the stream flows away into the frame. This sadly became subject to one of the main downsides of being uncomfortable handling a camera in public. I just wanted to snap the photo and move on before someone saw me, and because of that, I kinda botched it. I mean, it's not terrible, but it could have been so much better had I only spent some time fine-tuning the composition. Anyway, remember the last episode when me and Emma were walking around in the snow, taking photos in and around a graveyard? Well, here's that same church, but seen from a distance. Now, that took place a few weeks earlier, but in the next episode, you'll see what it looked like only a few days later. Spoiler alert, it's quite surreal that it went from full-on snowy winter to total snowless spring in less than 72 hours. Wicked. But I couldn't be happier. After taking a moment to appreciate the lack of snow, I basically just did a 180 and took this picture of the hotel from earlier. I particularly like the out-of-focus reeds in the foreground, and the comp is not too shabby, honestly. In fact, it's probably one of my favorite shots from this little walk, which isn't really saying much, but still. Making my way further towards the place where all that precious beer lives, I walked even closer past the building and snapped a few more shots from other angles. I kinda like both of these actually. It seems 135mm is a favorite focal length of mine for a reason. This winding path leading away between the parking garage and the road also looks pretty damn decent if you try to ignore the cars and stuff on the sides, so naturally I had to take another photo. This too turned out fine. Not the best, but definitely okay. I walked by this huge sign on the side of the road and took a photo with my phone. The reason why is quite unclear, but it seems it was around midday on April 26th and it was 11 degrees Celsius and pretty sunny, in case you're interested. Shortly after, I snapped this photo, also on my phone. I don't know, but I really like it. I can't really explain why, but it's got a very prison-y vibe that I dig. And W's are cool, I guess. Ah, finally among shelves upon shelves filled with the elixir of life. I probably should have shot some more beer roll, but I suppose I was too busy talking myself out of buying them all. So fast forward to the top shelf of our fridge, because why not? Honestly, this is neither very impressive nor representative of how many different kinds of beers usually reside in our fridge, but no time to feel bad about the momentary lack of wide variety when the sun is shining and the chair on the balcony is calling my name. I enjoyed 2 wonderful brews that afternoon, while becoming all the more gropey with my beautiful Canon FTb. I mean, how gorgeous is this on a scale from 1,000,000 to infinity? Possibly a tiny bit tipsy, I took this photo of mostly the sky, it seems. But I like it, and that is a fairly interesting cloud pattern. Nothing spectacular, but well worthy of a 1/24th of this roll of severely overpriced Kodak Ultramax 400, I reckon. Sadly, I managed to botch the last shot of the roll by partially double exposing it somehow. I wasn't too bothered by that though, so I went back to enjoying this wonderful spring afternoon in the sun. Life is pretty damn good sometimes, even without any film left in your camera, although it certainly helps. Earlier in the morning before heading out, or possibly in the days before, I'd shot these couple of photos around the house, and I thought they deserved to be included in the video as well. I particularly like the red plant in the second shot. So, that's it. Next episode will, as mentioned earlier, likely be another weird one, with photos and footage spread out over 3 different occasions, all bundled into one extravagant video. Oh, I can tell you're so excited. I'll see you then. Or else.